Selecting in jQuery is pretty easy, especially if you know CSS. It doesn't get much more complicated than beyond a couple helper tricks that jQuery has up its sleeve. What I want to talk about, though, in this lesson is a concept called traversing the DOM, which is just a fancy way to say navigate the HTML. And I'll explain what that is. So to do that, let's get a demo working together. I'm going to add a huge list on this page, something to work off of. I'm going to paste this over, hit refresh, and now we have this huge list. And about halfway down the middle, or halfway down the list, I'm going to create an ID of middle guy, and I want to make sure we know which one this is. The middle guy. Refresh here. That's kind of going to be something we're going to be targeting. And just so it stands out, I'll add a class of strong, or an element of strong, so it's bold. And then let's add a couple classes in here. So random class, random class. And then we'll call this list big list. Cool. So what the heck is traversing the DOM? Well, you can select the middle guy. Make sure we're going to select the middle guy here. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. So we select the middle guy, pretty easy, nothing out of the ordinary. I'm going to add a class of heartify. And while the camera was off, I added this stupid class that just creates an animation and makes it pink. This animation is done with CSS3 keyframes, not jQuery. And it's just so we can kind of over the top visualize the change happening. So you can see middle guy is targeted, it's turned pink, and it's bouncing. That's pretty cool. But what if we wanted to get the next element, the next list item? This list is dynamic. We don't know how long it is, so I can't do nth child, but I know I always want to get the second list item after middle guy. Well, that's what's called traversing the DOM. So you could do something like this. Grab the middle guy, get the next one, and then add the class. Now I have the class added to the next one. You could do the previous one to previous. You can chain these back and forth. So you could do like next, next, and now we have the second one. And you can do that infinitely as long as you want. Now, whenever I'm doing that, I actually like to turn these into variables. I think it makes it a lot easier to navigate. So that code right here is the exact same thing, regardless if this is a variable, as if we wrote this. This way we have a little bit more control, and we know the middle guy exists. And when people create JavaScript or jQuery variables, to know that it's jQuery, a lot of people like to put a $sign there, and that's kind of, I'll follow that practice too. So that's how we'll keep track of knowing this is a jQuery variable and not just something I created called middle guy equals whatever. All right, well, let's talk a little bit more about navigating through or traversing the DOM. And I have here copy and pasted a bunch of different tricks. I'll quickly go through these so we can get familiar. But the idea here is between selectors and being able to traverse the DOM, you should be able to select anything on the page. So the most common one is probably going to be find. And what I'll do is comment this out and actually start over. Let's comment that out. And we're going to select the big list. Make sure that's what I called it, big list. And we're going to find the middle guy. So we have the middle guy, add class, heartify. See how I'm selecting it now? So what I'm actually doing is I'm selecting the entire UL and saying find the element inside of it with the ID of middle guy and add class. And then you could still do the chaining if you wanted to and do it that way. Now we know that ID exists, so it probably doesn't make sense to use find in that case, but Another good example, but I'm doing it just for demo purposes. Another good example we could do is we could do this. So what if we had, I'm gonna keep this code, trying to keep as much as I can here for you all. What if I had big list li, and I wanted to add class Heartify? The entire thing's gonna go crazy. Or I could rewrite this like this, and the whole thing's gonna go crazy. Same thing. One method was using CSS3 selectors. The second method was just traversing the DOM. Same thing. Technically, traversing should be a little bit more performant, I think. But to be honest, I wouldn't even worry about it at all for jQuery purposes. And what we'll do is, I don't like this at all. So I only want to get the first one. So now I'm selecting the first one, or I'm selecting the last one, or so on. And you can kind of keep messing with this. Or there's also a thing for not. So we can do, I'm going to select all LIs, but I don't want them to have a class of random class. So every single list item, go through the big list, find the LIs, every single list item that does not have a class of random class. Refresh. These two had the random class, so we're targeting using the not helper. You can also do things like this. So if we wanted middle guy, same thing. The selector still works in the same exact way that you were doing before. I think the only other one, there's properties for like next all, which would select everything after, and there's siblings and parents and all this. The only other one I want to kind of show you is the opposite of find, which is closest. So find looks for the closest one inside of it. Closest looks for the closest one outside of it, or like its parent. So what we'll do, so if we did closest, it's going to look for the closest one in it. Find, it would be the closest one in it. If we did closest, it would be the looking up towards the top. So what we could do is let's save that. Let's start over. We could do var big list is equal to the big list. And I want to do whatever the big list is, but I want to find the closest class of, and we could just say, let's just say content for now. Content, add class called Heartify. And now our entire content document should kind of start bouncing here, which is crazy and looks awesome. Or we could say find the closest container, which if you looked at my markup, also includes the sidebar. So we're going to do that. And now the whole thing's bouncing. Or we could do, if instead of container, we could probably have said article. It would have pretty much been the same thing. Refresh that. Yeah, same thing. And that's kind of how you traverse the DOM. As you do more and more selectors, you're going to run into situations where you need to get creative, not only through selections or selectors, but also through traversing the DOM and trying to find individual items.